Okay, so this is the experimental setup. On the top we have two 20 or 27 millimeter piezo discs, which we already verified can send and receive inputs. To receive the inputs, we need to apply a lot of gain. I'm using Audacity to do the sound processing and signal processing. And on the bottom we have a what size is it, Ian?
50 millimeter.
50 millimeter piezo disc, and that seems to actually be able to pick up your voice without much amplification whatsoever. So we're going to be sticking it in that barrel over there and conducting this test. Okay, so as described earlier, we have the 50 millimeter and the 27 millimeter piezo discs. 50 millimeters on the bottom, 27s are on the top, and we have two laptops here, both running Audacity. One's going to be the receiving, and the other one's going to be transmitting. The reason why we have to do this is because the computer cannot simultaneously record and transmit at the same time. At least I wasn't able to get it to do it with the 20 seconds or so we invested. So we're trying it this way, and if this works, we're going to be moving on to the next step. Okay, so on the output, we were playing a signal that is gradually increasing in frequency, and what we ended up recording is the spectrogram. So what you can see here is that there's just a whole bunch of white noise, but what's really cool is that here, if you see this line, you can clearly see the signal that we outputted. And if we play, starting here, there's this gradually increasing high-pitched noise. So what I can actually do is create a low-pass filter, which I'm going to do, and I'm going to cut out all of these lower harmonics, which our noise, our signal is not located in any way. So once I filter all this out, we should just be able to hear the signal that we're putting out. Okay, so I just applied a noise filter in Audacity, and you can see that we still see the line just vaguely, but you can see these very strong points here. And my hypothesis is that these are resonant frequencies of the piezo disc. So if we utilize frequencies of, I guess, 6 kilohertz as well as 7 kilohertz, which are resonant frequencies, we're going to get much better results with the being able to hear the sound. So I'm just going to change the waveform here. Instead of it being a pitch sweep, we're just going to be playing and then stopping, playing and stopping a signal of that frequency. Okay, so I just generated a new signal sweeping from 4 to 8 kilohertz. And as we can see, we've got another response at roughly 6.2K, and it dies out towards 6.5, maybe 6.7K, and then it increases again at the 7K mark, but not by very much. So I think our Goldilocks zone is that 6.2K. And this is a sine wave that we're actually sending out. Don't mind this, it was a erroneous recording. So I think I do want to try also a sawtooth to see if that changes the way that the piezos actually have their sound response in the speaker mode. Okay, so we now have an audio amplifier in the mix. So our output is going to the audio amplifier and then going to the speaker. And as you can see here, now we're getting an actual like black line pretty much indicating our frequency. And we're seeing different colorations. I'm going to clean this up. I still do believe that the 6.2 kilohertz is the resonant frequency of this, but this is looking way better. And when we play it back, it's just perfectly audible. Like it's just picking it up perfectly now. So this is great. I do want to input in a low-pass filter to filter all that out, but that's probably something that we're going to be doing in Python once we actually get to pinging. Okay, so here's some different stuff. I shortened the generated signal to just play little blips, right? And it's bleeping at different frequencies, just going up from, I believe, 6,000 to 8,000. And I'm recording on the same laptop now because I figured out how to send out and record at the same time. And what we're actually seeing is, look, the signal is generated, starts, and then there's a lag before it's detected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten the signal to a very, very small period of time, and then I should be able to figure out the time of flight. And I'm fairly certain we should be able to measure the exact distance to the bottom of this barrel of water. But one thing that you can see here is that when we're playing specifically at the harmonic frequency, look at this. You see how there are these different secondary harmonics that are playing? I think that this is the multipath. So basically what's happening is we're creating the signal, it's reflecting around, and it is changing frequency every single time it reflects. So this is the original sound wave that we sent out, and it was received by the transmitter, not transmitter, by the piezo on the bottom, right? And then what ends up happening is the ones on the side walls, they hit around and they change frequency, and those are signaled here. And you can see that we're actually seeing an increase in pitch, right? They're very apparent on this side, as well as a decrease in pitch. So I'm sure eventually I'll be able to figure out the math behind all this. But for right now, all I care about is this frequency that we're sending out, because that indicates that the signal is just coming down and reflecting up, or just coming down and staying at the same pitch. So next up, I'm going to shorten this, and we're going to see the time of flight calculation. Okay, so I shortened the sound, the emitted sound to a very short period of time. I don't know how long it is. I didn't really look at it. I can find it out. I think it's like 0.001 second or something like that. But what I am seeing is it is taking 0.009 seconds from the beginning of the signal till it is received on the piezo disc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 0.009 times roughly 5,000, because that's 5,000 feet per second, which appears to be completely incorrect. So I'm guessing I need to select till the very beginning of when that signal is generated. So from here, pretty much right there, I think, is when that signal just starts. So that is 0.005. And I'm going to go on the low end. See, it says that it's 4,760 per second. So I'm going to go as low. Ian, is this freshwater or saltwater?
Saltwater.
How salty?
It is the salinity of the ocean.
Okay, well, we're just going to go with the low end of the that number. So we have 0.005 times 4,000 760. Oh, that's not and. Times 4, 760. We're still getting 23.8 feet, which is clearly incorrect, because that barrel is maybe 3 feet. Okay, so go in here, look at it a little bit more, and contemplate life's decisions. I'm going to think about this for a bit. Okay, so from earlier, we got a little bit of a confusing result because the calculator was reading what, 23.8, and we measured the distance from each piezo, and it was apparently exactly 23.8 inches, not feet. But the problem is the math doesn't work out that way. I mean, we're seeing it giving it a number in feet per second, and I'm plugging in seconds and multiplying it by feet, so our answer should be in feet. So I am fairly confident that it's just pure coincidence. So we varied the distance, and I'm actually going to be changing, what do you call it, our output waveform, because right now it's one static frequency, and what I want it to do is actually do a frequency sweep, a very, very fast frequency sweep, and that should give me a very distinctive curve here on the output for me to detect. Because right now it's difficult to see where it starts and where it begins, and if I do a frequency sweep from the bottom to the top, I can actually see what the deviation in the two frequencies is. Okay, so right now I'm definitely getting a little bit stumped. This is just a tone that I generated. It is 0.003 seconds in length, and you can see that we play it, and then 0.006 seconds after beginning playing it, the signal is received on the other side. Now, according to the calculations we did earlier, 0.006 times, what was it? 0.006 times 4,760. 4,760. It's 28.56. So as I mentioned earlier, we got 23.8, which is clearly erroneous. And this is definitely in feet, not in inches, so I can prove it definitively. What I am thinking is causing this difference, or this deviation in my calculation, is that a piezo requires a certain amount of time to start vibrating. And the thing is, I don't know that right now. I don't have a way of experimentally figuring that out. I mean, I do know the depth of water, and I can back solve that way. And that's probably what I should do. But right now, I cannot deduce the distance accurately without a tape measure. But I would imagine once I do that, I should have a hysteresis value. What I can try doing is shortening this and see how it affects the waveform, which I'm going to do next. Okay, so this is the experimental setup. We have the speaker piezo on one end of the tank and the pickup on the other. This was the greatest distance that we could achieve between the two right on hand. As you can see, there's little fishies. So one problem that we were having was that inside the tank, when we start the signal, there's a specific amount of time that it will take before it will actually excite the piezo. And one problem that I think is happening is that we're not driving it powerfully enough with high enough of a voltage. Because I don't know, I would imagine that the amplifier is only putting out 12 volts. So we also we have minimal gain on the mic. So basically, what we're relying on is this piezo putting out enough power with the wave to come over there and then physically move this to generate a voltage, which we then can pick up on the laptop. So I think that there's a problem both on the sending as well as on the receiving side, just because of the amount of power that we're putting out. So what I'm going to do, we just moved here, so I'm going to rerun the test. Okay, so during that previous setup where we had one on either end, we ended up getting this result. So I found the resonant frequency of the two larger transducers. As you can see there, we're using 250 millimeters now, to be roughly 5200 hertz. And I generated the signal, which as you can see is like 0.003 seconds long, or 3 milliseconds long. And from beginning to about here takes, I think, how long was it? Yeah, you can see that it takes 13 milliseconds. Then we have this rise time of roughly 1 millisecond. But what's curious is that I don't quite understand how to interpret this. But we have this frequency drop. This should be the Doppler shift. And then it goes negative. And then it comes back up. No, this isn't frequency. This is sound. But how are we getting into negative sound over here? That's something that's curious. And the thing is, it can't be this distance to here. Well, that does look like this mirrored. But that's a really long period of time. That's 13 milliseconds. How long is this tank again?
5 feet.
So it's 10 feet long. It should not take... Am I doing the math incorrectly somehow? Because I am plugging in it correctly. I mean, it's 0.013. 0.013. 0.013, which is our time, that's in seconds, times 4,760. That's giving us 61.88 feet. Because this is feet per second. And this is
somebody just
seconds.
Sold side-scan Sonar Transducers for $400.
Yeah. I don't understand. Okay, so after being stumped for a while, we moved both of the piezos side by side, and what we were getting was when we generate the ping, which is just a positive voltage, by the way, or just the positive part of the waveform, and then we let it just go neutral, it generates this waveform. And then what we did was we moved it all the way to the end, and replayed the same signal, and as you can see, the only thing that has changed is the position of this in time, and the actual position difference has changed by 0.01 seconds, 0.001 seconds, which is approximately 4.76 feet. And our tank is 5 feet long. So that is actually the correct distance that it did move. What Ian was thinking of doing was putting a plate directly in front of in front of one of the transducers, and then we were going to play it again and see what the results were. And I think the next test after that will be moving the piezo from the end of the tank to approximately the halfway point, and that will also give us more information. Okay, so now we're receiving pretty strange results. This is the one when it's at the end of the tank, and this one is when it's pretty much right in front of the other piezo. And what we're seeing is that the shape of the waveform is being modulated rather than the location of the waveform. So that's kind of strange. I don't quite understand how to interpret this, because this one being further away and it was approximately 0.01 seconds away from this guy, indicating that it was 5 feet further. Maybe this is roughly where... I don't know, dude. Like, this is freaking